Hello everybody, I have an interesting turntable that I thought we could take a look at. So this turntable came in from a customer and he was saying the high end doesn't sound like it should do and wondered if I could take a look. And I noticed that he had Damme audio cables on there, microphone instrument cables. I know a lot of people say that they're not good for use on turntables. So I thought of a way to test this, and I brought this record which has a frequency sweep, and my idea was we would record a frequency sweep on the turntable and then replace the cables. So I have some original Technics cables here, and we'll swap them over and we'll compare. But I wanted to work out my method for testing, so that is what we're going to do first. And I've done it, and I think it will work in a way that will show the differences. So first of all, we're going to record the test tone on the customer's turntable. We're going to swap the cartridge over onto this turntable, which just has some really rubbish cables on there, and then we'll record the frequency sweeps with the same stylus on both, on the same channel on the mixer, set at the same volume. We're recording onto my Zoom recorder, and then that will record to WAV. We'll drop into Audacity, we'll generate a frequency graph, and then we can just kind of like replot the graph, and I've instantly seen that there is a difference. So let's do this first one, and then after that we'll do this one with new cables and we'll look for the difference. So the first thing we're going to do is just show you my recording of the test tone. We are set up, so we have our HiFi test LP, and we want track number 7 using the first channel on the mixer. And I've got the gain set to maximum. It's quite a low test tone. And then we're going to record onto the Zoom recorder. So we're set up on track number 7. The Zoom is recording. I'm at the right position. So that was recording on the customer's turntable. And now if we switch over to this second one, I'm going to swap the stylus. And the phono leads, so that we're on the same channel. So these phono leads are really cheap. They're nothing special. So the volume and everything is set the same. So we'll set the Zoom recording . So there are 2 recordings. I will load them into Audacity, we'll generate a graph, and we'll do a quick visual comparison. So here we have our 2 recordings, and I will play those so that you can hear them in the video. Obviously YouTube is going to compress that, so it might be a little bit difficult to hear. But what we can do is we can select the track, we can go into Analyze and plot spectrum. So I found if we have, let's zoom in. So hand window 128 logarithmic frequency. So this first one is from the turntable with the dip in the audio, and you can see there that there is actually a dip, whereas it should really be round. If we select the second recording and replot, all of this is pretty much the same, and then we have a round fall off from the frequency. If we go back to the customer's turntable, you can clearly see that there is definitely a dip in that frequency range. So I think that that is good enough for me to use, and I will change the cables and we'll do the tests again, and I'll also record some audio. I have one of the customer's records. I'll record the audio and I'll let you listen to those as well, and we'll see what happens. Before we swap the cables over, I want to record a little section from the record that the customer gave me. I've marked with a little bit of masking tape the point where we want to start the recording. I'm using the other channel on the mixer so that I don't mess any of the volume settings from the first one. So channel 1 will be used for the test tone, channel 2 will be used for recording the record. Hopefully this record won't flag any content, and we're only recording a little section of it. So we've got the zoom set up again, and we're just going to record a little section. I'll put this recording on the video. So we now have a test tone recording, and we have a sample from this record. So now I'm going to swap the RCA leads over to the new original Technics, and we'll do the recordings again. So these are the Damme cables. So it clearly says instrument cable, and I believe that the impedance of these cables is one of the reasons why the audio doesn't sound right. That's from comments that I've seen. But these are like designed to send a signal over a long distance. So first of all, we'll do the audio sample test, which is still set up on the second channel. So I haven't adjusted any of the volume levels on the mixer. We have the customer's record, and we're going to put the needle back at the point of the masking tape. Okay, so the zoom is recording. And we're recording the audio sample. Now let's go back to the first channel, which has got a lot higher volume. Okay, so we're ready to record the frequency sweep. Volume is on max, faders are up. Zoom is recording. So there we have our 2 recordings. So now we'll go back to Audacity and we will have a look. Okay, so we still have the old ones open from before. So if we can drop another recording onto the end. If we go to the SD card, and we have the last file which we recorded, which was the frequency wave. If we just drop that in, just trim, select the track, plot spectrum. So everything is set up as it was before. So now we have a lot smoother curve at the end. If we go back to our previously good recording, it's not quite as a dramatic drop off, but there's no dip. And then if we go back to our original bad recording, we have that dip again. So let's now go back to the new recording. So the dip has definitely gone, but the sound frequency is definitely different across the 3. But that significant dip has disappeared. So is there an actual difference between those 2 cables? And this graph is saying yes, that there is a difference. There's definitely a dip in the frequency between those 2 cables. So I've just finished testing the cables on my customer's turntable, and I got to the end and I'm like, no, I need to carry this on. I have another turntable from another customer that has an RCA plate, so you can use any cables without soldering. So I have a selection of cables that I'm going to repeat the testing on this turntable. So the only thing that will be changed is the RCA lead, and everything else will stay the same. So I will record the same test tone, and then we'll set it up again in Audacity and we'll compare. And one thing that I've done is I've used these same cables that we just took off that system. I've quickly soldered on some ends so that we can include this Van Damme cable in my testing. So I've got these cables, which are the ones that I currently use as replacements on my turntables. So it'll be interesting to see how they work. I have these ones that you could buy from Maplin's, which were like £20 for a pair of RCA. And then just a random collection of interconnects that I had lying around. So I'm going to get set up and we're going to record the same test tone, just swapping these cables over and then doing a comparison. So as you can see, this turntable has RCA plates underneath. And unfortunately, it's internally grounded as well. So we can just pop the RCA leads on the bottom. And plug into the mixer. So as far as this is concerned, the volume is set maximum again, and everything else is the same. So we're not going to change the stylus, we're just going to change the interconnects, record the test tone. So we're using a random pair of interconnects that I found. We're on recording number 13. Second pair of random interconnects, recording 14. High quality cables that you can find at places like Maplins. High quality cables found at Maplins, recording 15. One meter pulse audio that I've been using with my repairs. Pulse audio 1 meter, recording 16. Three-meter pulse audio, which are the newer versions. So I would normally cut these in half and do a pair out of this one cable. So 3-meter pulse audio, recording 17. And then last, we have those Van Damme cables that I took off the customer's turntable, which I've quickly put phonos on the end so that we can do a comparison. Van Damme microphone instrument cables, recording 18. To my ears, that sounded a lot quieter than all of the other cables, but let's take a look. I've spent a bit of time and I've got the graphing data out and into Photoshop, and I've had a play around, and I'm in a position where I can show you the graphs overlaid. So the first two are the cables that I use, which is the pulse audio. So the 3 meter and the 1 meter, and you can see that they're kind of similar. And then on the top of that, if we put on the Maplin's style cables, you can see that again they have a very similar kind of pattern. We then have those cheap RCA in yellow, and green. So far all of those cables are looking very similar. They have a very similar kind of shape. And then if we look at the worst one out of the lot, which was the Van Damme cables, where I put the RCA connectors on the end and then we use them on the RCA plate. So we can see a dramatic difference on that line to all of the others. So really we should be looking at like a straight line for the frequency response, but all of the other styles, they have this bulge just there where this goes straight down. Now, although it was recorded on a totally different turntable with a different stylus, if we put the original Panasonic with this blue line, we can see that the blue line is closer to all of the other RCA cables that I've used, whereas the Van Damme cables are quite flat. So even without the dip, it's quite a flatter response than the other cables which are boosting these frequencies. Then if we look at the original Van Damme cables on the original customers, let's get rid of everything else. Okay, so this purple line was the original Van Damme cable on the customer's turntable, and then we put the Panasonic on there. So there was still a reasonable amount of difference between the Technics cable and the Van Damme cable. And then if we put the cheap RCA lead on that we did our original comparison to, we can see that that is very much closer to the Technics cable. So on both cases where I've tested the Van Damme, it's definitely a lot flatter a response and a lot lower than all of the others. So that's why when comparing the Van Damme to other cables, it does sound different. But is that a good? It will sound different, but that's because it's a lot flatter response, where the others have got this boost. So if we just put everything back on, so it's the two Van Damme that are a lot lower than the others, and everything else is roughly the same. So what do we think about that? We can see that all of the other cables are relatively similar, apart from the Van Damme cable, which has the dip and is a lot more of a straighter line as it goes through the frequencies. All the others go down and then they go up and round. And that's obviously boosting those frequencies, or is the Van Damme cable flattening them out? I'm not an expert on this, but we can clearly see that there is a significant difference between the Van Damme instrument cable and all of the other phono RCA cables that I have in my collection. Unfortunately, I only have the one Van Damme cable, so I can't test more of those. but I thought that was quite interesting, and hopefully you would have found the way that I've tested it is okay. I've only changed the one part throughout all of the tests, and it was just the cables. Everything else has stayed the same. So please let me know in the comments if there was another way that I could do this, if there's something else that I could have tested, or if I could have tested in a different way. But hopefully you find that interesting, along with all the other videos that I do, and fingers crossed the customer will be happy that his turntable now sounds how it should do.